Okay,
All
good.
right.
Yes. No more taking your time.
That's cool.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So you guys both got the homework done, and I thought you both did a great job. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Yeah.
Good. Good. Alejandra, you okay with it?
Yeah, I know that I did it and all of that, but I'm not completely sure if I understood what I just did.
Okay. Right. Well, we're gonna try to expand on what we did tonight. But before we do that, do you have any specific question?
Not really.
Okay. All right. Um, any particular thing that you didn't understand or was confusing?
Well, it's not really probably confusing. I was just wondering why, like, you know, the main .java type of stuff. Why does the
Right.
first letter have to be capitalized?
The first line, the main, where it says main, why does main have to be
Yeah.
capitalized? Okay, so well, so main is a special class, right? We can create all kinds of classes on our own. We can create lions and lights and tigers and whatever else we feel like creating. But the compiler, see, like with Python, Python knows where to start because you type in a line or like reads the first line of the file, of you give it a file, and it just starts at the start. But with Java, it you give it like all your stuff, all your a real program's got hundreds of classes in it, and they're scattered in hundreds of files, and you feed that into the compiler and it puts it all together. So where are you supposed to start, right? Like when the program starts to execute, where are you supposed to start? And so this is where you're supposed to start. It starts at main with a capital M inside the method main, inside the class main, and that's just where it knows how to start. Any other class, you can name whatever you want. And
Like, remember last night when I asked you about the lion.java?
yeah, right. And the capital, talking about the capital L. Right. Yeah, I don't know why the name of the file has to match the name of the class. Most other languages are not like that. I can't see any real reason why that has to be that way. But I don't know. That's Java. That's just one of its rules.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it was one of the questions that I gave you last week. Let me see here. Yeah. So what if we wanted to make it work for 2 lions? What if we wanted to take our program and make it work for 2 lions? What would have to change?
Good question.
Okay.
You would have to add like how we did for the light program. You would have to like add another light and like kind of create like a different name for that light and basically call on that name in the part of the code where you call on the part from the lion.java file.
Right. So would the lion class have to change?
No. It would.
Right. Right. The lion class doesn't have to change. What we'd have to do is we would have to have, instead of 1 lion variable, we'd have to have 2. There's something else that would have to change too. So let me see if I can share my screen here. And let me take this off the screen here. Start sharing. Okay. All right. So I've already got some. I don't. Okay. Good. Okay, so what we have in this class, so here's our class main, and we've got a couple of variables, one the light and the lion. So we would need to have another lion. So we would have to do something like, the lion 2 or something like that. This would, now we have two variables, the lion and the lion 2, and or maybe we can call it another lion. Okay. So now we've got two lions. There's something else that would have to change too. So when we go and run this program, right, I've got a couple of commands here, off and status, that have to do with the light. So and on, we can ignore those things. But we've got two commands that have to do with the lion, feed and enter, right? And so these commands would have to change, right? Because something would have to change, because we have to know, are we going to feed lion or are we going to feed the other lion, right?
Mhm.
So we need to get a little bit smarter in how we parse our commands, and then we have to get a little bit smarter with lion, with when we have to have more lion objects lying around. Okay. So those are the two things that have to change. The class itself doesn't have to change. Now, last week I briefly mentioned, I talked a little bit about lists. I said that all the stuff that we've written so far pretty much could more easily be done by hand. Right? We haven't really needed computers to do anything like this. So where we start to really get into computers, where computers start to really become useful for us, is when we start dealing with lots of objects, when we start dealing with lists in particular, lists of objects. So if we were going to keep track of a class of students, right, we would have like, well, maybe we have like a file on the disk of all the names of all the kids in the class, right? Well, one class is going to have 10 kids, another class 20, maybe 30 kids, right? So different classes are going to have different numbers of kids, and so the way that we're doing things, it starts to get pretty hard, right? We can't have like kid 1, kid 2, kid 30, kid 40, right? Especially if we don't know how many, sometimes in college, lecture classes can have a couple hundred kids in them. So, or suppose we want to start keeping track of their scores, right? Their grades, the grades for the kids in the class. So it starts off, maybe the first week there's a couple of homework assignments or something, and then after another couple of weeks there's some quizzes and so on, right? As the school goes along, we're going to have more and more grades that we need to keep track of. Right, so it's just things are just gonna kind of grow over the course of time, and you can just see that it becomes just completely impossible to keep track of all this information with individual variables. So how do we do it? We do it with something called arrays and lists. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Any questions before I go any further? All right. So I was hoping to just talk about one kind of list, but I have to tell you about two different kinds of lists. They're very similar, but a little bit different. And I'm just going to go over these things really as quickly as I can, and then hopefully we're going to program together like we did last week. And so don't worry if you don't grab this all at the start. I just want to kind of give you a flavor for it. So there's two things. There's arrays and there's array lists. And when I'm talking, I'm going to be sloppy. Sometimes I'm going to say array, sometimes I'm going to say array list, sometimes I'm going to say list. So, but arrays in Java are, so in Java, we have variables, right? And I've told you before, you can think of a variable as a box, right? And the box has some sort of value inside of it, like the number 3, right? And there's two, what are the two things that a variable has? Anybody know?
A name and a type.
Exactly, right, very good. So, maybe the name of this variable is, I don't know, number of, I don't know, lions, and the type in this case is an integer, okay? So all the variables that we've talked about so far can have one value inside the box and just one value. But arrays and array lists give us the ability to put multiple values inside one box. So how do we do that? So so what we've got is like this drawing over here. I'm just going to copy it again. So we've got a variable, and it's a box just like before, and it's got a name. Let's say that the name of it is tokens, and it has a type. Now, and everything that's in the box can only have the same type. So you can't like have strings and integers, whatever, inside they all have to have the same type. So in this case, maybe it's maybe they're all integers, but the type is an int. It's where let's say that they're strings. So the type isn't string. It's string with these 2 square brackets. So that means that it's an array of string. And so let's say that we want to have a bunch of strings in here, so we can have, you know, like A and B and C. Well, how do we differentiate between these different values that are in there? We give them what's called an index. So each value has an index, and it starts at 0. The first one in the array is has index 0. The second one has index 1, and the last one in this case has index 2. So, and there's one other thing that this variable has, which is called the length, because we always need to know how many items are inside our variable. So, and we can tell that by looking at the length property, and in this case it has the value 3 because there's 3 items inside the box. So how does this work? So when we're declaring a variable, like up here, we say something like this. Okay, so we say string with the square brackets, open square bracket, close square bracket, tokens equals, and then we can give it an initial value if we want with this. This is a curly brace on my keyboard. On my keyboard, I've got over next to the P, I've got a square bracket, and then the uppercase is a curly brace, and then inside of it, separated by commas, are all the values that we want to put inside the array. All right. Now and there's other information about arrays that we can go in. The two main important things to know: all the values have to be the same type, and arrays have a fixed size. So this array starts off with 3 items in it. It can only ever have 3. You can change the values that are inside of it. You could change this B to, you know, Chris, but it's always going to have 3 items in it. Can't have 2, can't have 4. Always going to have 3 items, which makes it a little bit like not all that. It's useful for some things, but not useful for like keeping track of those kids or their grades, because those things have to be able to grow and shrink over time. So this is where array lists come in more handy. So an array list also, it's a similar thing, right? You have a variable that has a bunch of items inside of it. You can differentiate the items with their index 0 and 2. Instead of having length, it has a size property, and you add things into the array by using the add method. You get things out of it instead of using square braces like this. You use a get method, and you can set items into it by using the set method, and you can take items out of it using the remove method. All right, so just basically want to give you the idea that there's 2 different kinds of ways that we can have lists of items inside a variable. Array lists give us the ability to add and remove items from the list. Arrays, you just sort of stuck with the same number of items from start to finish. Okay. now what I want to do next is I want to go and write a little bit of code for you with this. But are there any questions? I know you didn't grasp everything about them, but do you have any specific questions before we go forward and start to try to use these things?
So when it comes to arrays and array list, wouldn't it be more preferable to use the array list?
Yeah, in general it is, and like I say, I was hoping to only tell you about array lists, but when I started to write the code for what I needed to do, I needed to have an array too, so I have to tell you about both of them. And so sometimes an array is a little bit more convenient, but yeah, in general, I'm going to use array lists.
Okay.
All right. So suppose, forget about lists for a moment. Suppose we have these two lions, right? And we want to be able to feed either one of them. We want to be able to feed the lion or another lion. So what I said we had to do is we had to change a little bit the way that we parse our commands, right? Instead of just saying feed, I want to be able to say like feed 0 or feed 1. And that'll feed, hold on. Just a second. No. All right, so feed 0 is going to feed the lion and feed 1 is going to feed the other lion. Okay. So how can we do that? So what I want is to have a new command. So I'm just going to go like this. Oh, well, first of all, my lions have to have names, right? That's what I was saying, I think, in order so that we can tell one from the other. So actually, I do have to change the lion class a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the constructor here, the constructor, the special method, to tell the lion what name it is when we create it. Just like that. All right. So when I create this lion, it's going to be, what should we call the first lion? What's a good name for a lion? I know you guys had names for your lions already.
I had Daphne for mine.
All right, so we're gonna call this one Daphne. And what was the name of your lion, Pranav?
Simba.
All right, okay, good. All right, so we got our two lions. One's named Daphne, one's named Simba. Actually, change this real quick. All right, so, okay. So what I want is instead of saying feed, meaning feed the lion, I'm going to say like feed 0 or feed 1 to feed one or the other one. Okay, so I want to do this, but it's not going to be, so now the line isn't just going to be feed, it's going to be feed 0, feed 1. I could have like one command for like feed 0 and another command for feed 1. Again, once we start dealing with 20 or 30 lions, that's not going to work very well. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for anything that starts with feed. So if I type in any line that starts with, instead of equaling feed, and it's going to come into this if case. And then here's where we get our array. So what I have to do is I have to take this line that I wrote. So if I type in like feed 1, I have to take this line and break it into what are called tokens. So I want to get feed to be one token, and I want to get 1 to be the other token. So don't worry too much about all this. It's just what we have to do. I think that's right. All right, so do not worry about this. This is just magic. What this does is it takes command. The command is what we type in, and the split method just splits it up. This tells it to split up whenever there's one or more spaces, and it creates an array. So feed. So what we wind up with. Let me get my whiteboard up for a second. If I type in feed 0, what I'm going to wind up with is tokens is going to have, for the 0 element, is going to have feed, and then the 1 element is going to be whatever number I type in. So if I type in 0, it'll be 0. If I type in 1, it'll be 1. So that's what we're going to wind up with here. And we can see what we wind up with by doing this. So we're going to use a little while loop here. So what we need is what we're going to do is we're going to loop through every element of this array. So we have this array called token, and we want to see every element in it. So we're going to declare an integer called index, and this index is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many items there are in our array. Then we're going to go into our loop, and inside the loop we have to, every time through the loop, we have to set index to index plus 1. So the first time through the loop, index will be 0, then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. We want the loop to stop when we've finished, when there are no more items in the array. So the way we do that is we say index less than, the way that we know how many items are in the array is we say token.length without a slash. So again, if I bring up the whiteboard, you see we have, arrays have this length property over here to tell us how many items are in the array. So the first time through the loop, right, index is going to be 0. We're going to do whatever it is we want to do. There's stuff that we want to do right here. We're going to set index to 1. 1 is still less than, let's say, 3. So 2, 3. Finally, when index is equal to the number of items in the array, then we're done. So what do we want to do each time in the array? We want to print out the value in the array. So we want to say system.out.println token of index. All right. So token is the name of our variable. When we give it index subscript, it pulls out in the item in the variable, and then we print it out. All right, so let's just run this much and see what we got. So if I say feed 9, 10, 11, Daphne ate me. Oh, I didn't enter the cage. That was not what I meant to do. All right. So
Wait, what happened?
I was wondering why it said Daphne ate me. That's because I have, when I come in here with this feed command, right, we do the split, loop through every item in the token array to see what values are, and then we enter the cage. All right. One last thing here. So if we have to, basically, if I say feed 0, I've got feed and 0. If I say feed 1, and this is item 0 and this is item 1. So if I want to know, so Let's say lion index gets integer dot horse int token of 1. Okay. So basically what I want to do is I want to be able to say feed 1, or, I'm sorry, whoops. I want to be able to say feed 0 and feed 1 lion. And I want to say feed 1 and feed the other lion. So I need to know whether I'm doing 0 or 1. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take saying token of 1, I'm grabbing saying token of 1, I'm taking this second item in the array, and then I parse it into an integer. And so now I know whether I type 0 or 1. Do you believe me? Then I can say if lion index is 0, and the lion feed, otherwise another lion feed. All right. So all right. So I read in my command, split it in half. I split it into feed and the number right here on line 29. This code was just to show us what was in the array. It's not serving any other purpose, so we commented out. This takes my number that I typed in, the 0 or the 1, turns it into an integer. If the integer is 0, then I feed 1 lion, otherwise I'm going to feed the other lion. Okay, and so then I can say, you can do a similar thing with enter. All right, so let's try this. So that's a lot of errors. Okay. Line 38. Feed. I got feed in here twice, don't I? Oh, wow. How many times did I put feed in here? All right. All right. All right. So feed, integer, enter. Okay. Might work. Okay. 38, still unhappy. Oh, here we go, line 49. The lion. Cannot find the lion. Lion. All right, so um, so, all right. So if I want to feed 0, it's going to feed 1. If I feed 1, it's going to feed the other one. Fortunately, I can't. Okay, so Daphne's good. So that's still good. If I say by x equals 3 for some reason. All right, let's try this again. Enter, enter, oh, enter cage. That's the problem. Enter cage. All right, let's try this. All right, so feed 0, enter 1. It's a baby. Okay, so, all right, so that's arrays. Now, I want you guys to try this. So instead of a lion and another lion, we want to be able to have as many lions as we want. So we want to have an array list. So we need an array list here. So I want you to take your line programs and put that in it. So you'll have, that creates a list of lions. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Wait, can you repeat what you want us to do again?
All right. So what we need is, instead of having one line, we want to have a list of lions. So we need to have, the way that you create a list of lions is with this kind of syntax. What it says is that you're creating an array list, and the type of it, because again, arrays and array lists, you can only have one kind of item in there. You can't have like integers and strings and lions and bears all in the same list. So you have to tell it what kind of thing is going to be in the list. And so this is how we do it with this angle bracket syntax. So we say we're creating an array list that contains lions. We're going to just call it our lions. And then this new statement creates our list. And at this point, it's just empty. There are no lions in it. Okay, do you both have that? Alejandro, do you have it?
Wait,
Did you add this to your program?
not yet. I just need to.
Let me know when you have it in your program.
I have it.
Have you okay?
Yes, I have it now.
Okay, great. All right. Then what I want you to do is to copy this set of statements here into your program. So, else if command that starts with instead of equals, starts with, and then whatever command you have to feed the lion. I know you guys use different things. Or you can shorten it to this or something, or whatever you want to do. Anyway, feed, and you notice how I have the blank here at the end of it. So it has to start with not just feed, but feed with a blank after it.
Okay.
And
Wait,
then
so-
these, go ahead.
Oh, so you want us to add till where it says another lion dot feed?
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
Wait, where?
yeah. So these lines, so lines 29 through 36. And really you only need lines 29 through 31. That'll be good. And let me know when you got lines 29 through 31 typed in.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm almost done.
Okay. You ready, Pranav?
One more second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, good. Okay, so what we've got is this line here, this line 5, is this variable here. It's called lions. Its type is an array list of lion. And it has nothing in it, right? We don't have any lions in it. So it has a property called size, a method called size with a couple parentheses there. And right now it's returning, size would return 0. There's nothing in the list. All right. Then somebody types in this command feed, and let's say they say feed 0. So this line here, line 31, I'm sorry, line 30, it creates this variable called actually token. Creates this variable called token, which has 2 items in it. It has feed, and it has number of the line that we want to feed. And it also has a length of 2. So line 30 just creates this. And then line 31 says, let's take this item, token of 1, and turn it into an integer. So this becomes the integer 0. And that becomes line index. This is line index. And then let's just ignore these lines for right now because we were using them to switch between our 2 lions, but instead of that, we're going to use it to apply to our array. So what we really want to do here is we want to say something like, what would we do? Well, I haven't seen it yet. So what we would do here is we want to get the lion that's at whatever index this says. Let's pretend that there is a lion in here. Let's say that at 0 we've got the lion named Daphne. So what we would have to do is we'd have to say we get our lion, the lion. Let's not call it the lion. Let's call it. Let's just call it lion. That's lions at get of lion index. Okay, so what line 32 is saying is this variable here, this array list, we're going to get one of the items, right? So this is our variable, we're going to get one of the items. Which item are we going to get? We're going to get the item that's at the index specified by this value. Does that make sense? So in this case, we would be getting Daphne. So now we have another variable lion. I'm sorry, variable name is lion, which is of type lion. And that's going to be Daphne. Wow. Sorry. Let's just say D. It's Daphne in there. Okay. So with line 32, we've got this lion variable with Daphne inside of it. And now that we've got a lion, now we can do anything that any lion can do. We can feed it, we can enter the cage, we can have it say something, whatever we want to do. We've got a lion, so we can say lion dot, and you can see all the lion stuff is here. So we can just say, you know, lion dot, in this case, feed. And so if we had Simba also in this array, oops, right? Then if I had typed 1 in here, we'd have a 1 in our lion index, right? And then when we do line 32, instead of getting the 0th lion, we'd be getting the first lion, because right? Lion index would be 1 instead of 0. And so we'd get Simba in here instead of Daphne. And then when we say lion.feed, we'd be telling Simba to get fed instead of Daphne. Questions? All right.
Can you like repeat all of that? I'm confused.
All right. Sure. Okay, so let's start again. So right now our lions array is empty, but suppose we had 2 lions in it. However they got there, we don't know, but it doesn't matter. We have this array called lions at the top. All right, that's this guy on line 5. An array called lions. Its type is an array list of lion. So it's got a bunch of lions in it. So the 0th one we're going to say is Daphne. The one at index 1 is Simba. Let's just say that they got there. Right now it really is empty, but let's suppose that somehow or other we got these 2 lions in there. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So the way that we address these, how do we get to Daphne? How do we get to Simba? What we do is we say lions, whoops. Oh man. Lions.get. And we give it an integer. We give it 0 or 1. You know, lion.get 0 is going to give me Daphne. Lions.get with 1 is going to give me Simba. Does that make sense?
So when you put in the get part, it kind of goes into like the box.
Right. Exactly. Right. And so right. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, and our actual code is this. We have lion. Maybe I'm using the word lion too much. Maybe there's something else.
Yeah, there's a lot of lions.
Yeah. Lion, how about like favorite lion? Let's just call it favorite equals lions.get of 1. So this, right, saying lion favorite, this creates a new variable, right, called favorite. What's the type of favorite? What's the type of this variable called favorite?
String.
No.
Maybe arrays.
What?
Arrays.
No, just pretend that this is a line of code right here. I've declared a variable here. I'm declaring a variable called favorite right here. What's the type?
Oh, lion.
Right. You see that, Alejandra?
Yeah.
Okay. So favorite is type lion. And that means that we can put any of these lions inside this. We can't put a 3. No, no, no. Right? We can only put lions inside of here because that's its type. Right? So, but we can put any of these lions in here. So what we do is we say lions.get. So this is lions and get. How would I so if I say lions.get of 1, what lion am I getting?
Simba.
Right. And so according to this line of code, this variable here would have the symbol lion inside of it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I just want to get one more thing before, and then you'll be ready to do another fun exercise. So the question, we've sort of skipped over, well, how did we get any lions inside of here? And so I'm gonna have a new command over here that I'll call make. So we have 2 commands that we've created here, feed and enter, right? And I'm gonna change enter to be like feed. All right, so we need to be able to create some lions. So let's create a new command called make. So what I want to be able to say something like make Simba, or make George might be a good name for a lion. Right. So make George, and I want that to create a lion named George. So here's my make, right? So I'm looking for a command that starts with make, and I split the tokens up. So now my tokens of 1, instead of being a number, is going to be name that I want. So since this is a name, it's a string, it's not an integer, so we don't have to do this parsing like this. Instead, what we want to do, and we're not getting something out of our lions, we want to add something to our lions array. We want to add a new lion. So we want to say lions.add and we want to create a new lion. So we want to say a new lion, and we have to give it the name, and it'll be just token of 1. All right. So compress it all down into one line. So maybe that's a little kind of confusing. So what this line does, let's split it up into multiple lines. So first thing is we need our line's name. So that's a string. So name gets tokens of 1. So that gets us our name. Now we want to create a new lion. So how am I going to create a new lion?
Type in the new lion and then parentheses.
Right, right. And in this case, we're actually in the constructor, we're giving it the name of our lion. So we'll just pass that right there. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got a new lion. Now we have to add it to our lions array, or array list. So what's the name of our array list?
I forgot.
Favorite?
Lions.
Oh,
And the way that we add an item to our array is we say .add. So, and now we're going to add our lion to it. So just like that. All right. So, all right. So what happened here? All right. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to, so we have our original lions. It's empty. It's an array list of lion. meaning that everything in there has to be a lion. Right now there's nothing in it, so its size is 0. I type in make George. So on line 30 here, I split the string make George into two token. 0 is make and 1 is George. So on line 32, I just take this value George and I just copy it into a new variable. What's the name of this variable that I'm putting it into on line 32?
What was the question?
Okay, so on line 32, I'm taking this value, the first item in token, and putting it into a new variable. Right? I'm taking the first item in token and putting it into a new variable. What's the name of the variable? All right, token is this variable, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I say token left bracket 1 right bracket, that gives me this item inside the variable. It happens to be George, right? So this expression evaluates out to the string George. And this operator, this is the assignment operator, it assigns it into a variable that I'm declaring over here. What's the name of this variable? All right, so suppose I said this. Okay, so on line 33, I've declared a new variable. What's the name of the variable that I just declared?
Fred.
What?
Fred.
What's the name of the variable?
Oh, something.
Something.
Right, what's its type?
String.
String.
Right, what am I putting into it?
Hmm?
What am I putting into the variable?
Fred.
Right, Fred. All right, so on line 32, what's the name of the variable that I've declared?
Name.
Yes, good. What's its type?
String.
Right. What value am I putting into it?
1.
No.
Wait.
Shiva.
I'm taking, so I've typed in make George, right? And so line 30 creates this variable called token, which has 2 strings inside of it. At the 0 index is make, and at the 1 index is George.
Oh, so say George.
Right. So I've got the string George inside this variable. All right. So that's line 32. So line 31, we split up our token. We split up our string into tokens. On line 32, we pull out the name and put it in that variable. Forget about line 33. Line 34, what's happening on line 34? We're creating a new variable, right? What's the name of this variable?
George. Oh,
What's the name of the variable?
New lion.
New line.
Right, new lion, right. What's its type?
Lion.
Right. And what's the value that's inside of this variable?
Name. George.
Yeah, well, it's a new lion. It's a lion, right? It better be a lion because that's the type of the thing, right? So,
Yeah.
so it's a lion called George. So we'll just say like that. Okay. So that's line 34 has created this new lion. So now line 35, this is the thing that's sort of new to us. All the other stuff we've seen before. What this does is it takes the lion's variable. The lion's variable is an array list, right? And one of the things that Arraylists provides us is this add method, which allows us to add an item to the array list. So in this case, we can say, in this case, what we're adding is this new lion. It's this lion named George that we just had. So the result of line 35 is to create a new item in our list, which is a lion named George. And now the size is 1 because now there's an item inside of it. All right, so let me just give you a quick run through of the program. So we just see that this works. And then it'll be ready. Whoa. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Okay. So when we use Arraylist, we have to import a library from Java. So we have to say import java.utils.star. And now we can do it. Sure. Maybe it's util. All right. So first thing I want to do is I want to be able to make our lion. So I want to be able to say make George. And then I want to be able to feed our 0th lion. And then I want to be able to say enter that. So we created a lion, we fed it, and then went in the cage and